say I'm grateful to the internet because on some level, I'm a bit dependent on the internet, and I'm happy to be here. My name is Dr. Tovah Goldfein. This is TMS Roundtable Global, and we are streaming live from Israel to the north of England, Drew?
Northeast of England, yeah, a place called Stockton, which is near Newcastle, which is probably the biggest city that people might recognise outside of the UK.
Right. So are you in Ireland?
Am I?
Are you in Ireland?
We're an island, yeah, but we're not the United Kingdom, yeah. We're a little tiny little place that used to rule the world.
Got it. Anyway, I am thrilled tonight to talk about a few things with Drew, who we had on the show about a year ago with Rose and I. And we talked about his book. But now we're going to talk more about something specific in his book. This is an incredible book. Written very well, beautifully written, beautifully choreographed, like just the different things about, just excellent. I highly recommend it. It's a great read, and it's like in your toolbox, because ultimately it's something you need, because what is chronic pain? It's the brain learning. So I'm going to say less and introduce Drew Coverdale, with a lot of initials after his name, because you're a master of physical therapy. You have mastered physical therapy, a master's degree in physical therapy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's just a secondary degree. I was particularly interested in musculoskeletal part of physio. So you're allowed to do another degree on top of that. I was chasing the pain for a year, 20 years, Tovah.
You're chasing the pain. So I can't wait. So you're chasing, you had pain? You had chronic pain?
No, I recognise the trait, but as a clinician, I was chasing the pain, and I was looking at knowledge to give me the answer, and I realised I was looking in the wrong place.
What was it? Because you're a physical therapist, you're taught to fix things that are broken. What part of you in your life decided to think there's something else going on here?
I observed talking therapy for chronic pain, persistent pain, and I really found it hard to even countenance that possibility that simply talking to someone and have them understand what you say could change the pain from a persistent pain. And yet really it's very obvious, actually, because what happens with a child when they have pain, and a physical pain or emotional pain, well, they present that to you. They think it's the end of the world. They're breathing really quite fast, dysregulated or perfectly regulated for the environment in which they're in. They're physically guarded. If there's a small cut on the finger, or they've fallen off the bike, or if there's no physical injury, somebody's called them a name or stolen a toy. So it's a physical and emotional pain. So there's a physical representation of that emotion. And the emotion in its origin is fear. Fear of non-survival of the set of circumstances I'm being presented with as a child. Yeah. The child runs to the parent and says, conceptually, doesn't have these rational thoughts, but saying, I've got a set of circumstances in my life and I don't know how to deal with them. Please help me. And that's pain. And the parent gives them different thoughts. Yeah. I'm going to die. No, you're not going to. Well, you are going to die, but not today, not of this. Take a deep breath, a few breaths, then we'll think about what to do. Because sometimes words are the worst to use. Words are useless to a rational mind. Words are useless.
As opposed to
listening, hearing, validating.
Wow.
Hold the space for no words.
Or validating, yeah. We get triggered when our children get hurt. Parents get triggered, and that's just like, everything will be okay. It's okay. Stop crying.
Right.
Because we got triggered.
Yeah. Now, if we are familiar with the pathway they're presenting with, a cut finger or a named calling, you can give them the timeline of the pain. It's a cut on my finger, and I cut mine yesterday, so you'll be okay. This takes a day or so where you keep it out of lemon juice and you don't put it in salt and vinegar crisps, and you're going to be okay. If it's whatever the pathway is, if you've experienced it, you can explain the timeline. The physical part of it, you'll get that body and move it a little bit. If it's emotional distress, you'll connect with them with your eyes, or you'll hug them or touch them. And the emotion of fear is swapped for love and care and kindness and passion.
Amazing.
And that flips the pain of an acute child. But what's happening in persistent pain is exactly the same. What's been missed in the distance of time between their onset of pain and your opportunity to meet them, or somebody else who has an opportunity, is they've repeated the fight, flight, freeze, or fawn response.
Right. It's funny you mentioned that word. I just have to plug, before we talk about Extinction Bursts, I have to plug, I just saw the movie Pain Brain. And oh, hi Neil. I just saw that also Neil was written up in your book. So happy you're here, Neil, who's another wonderful therapist working with chronic pain. Anyway, I just saw the movie Pain Brain. The movie about, I've got certified in pain reprocessing therapy, and I'm doing a lot of Alan Gordon's work, and I just love, we're all part of this amazing community. So the movie is out, if you heard about it. It's a movie about the study of the Boulder, Colorado study about helping people in pain. It's a phenomenal movie. You see Sarno in the movie. Anyway, a clip of Sarno and Dr. Schubiner. It's a beautiful movie, and he's talking to these people who was helping to get better with the psychological, just what you're saying, Drew. And he's saying to see the pain as an opportunity. And so and I know it's like, yeah, thanks, doc. Are you in pain? Do you know how this feels? So I understand it's not logical. Pain means something's wrong. Pain means something's, but not this kind of pain.
Yeah, and it was that observation of, it's the training that Neil does. It's all pain to go. I didn't watch Neil do it, but through that process, I've met Neil and been inspired by him, to be honest. And that was all pain to go. So I was fascinated in it as a process. And for the last 5 years, I've explored that and lots of other similar things like pain reprocessing, like you mentioned. And I'm looking forward to seeing that film as well. And I've shared it with the groups that I'm aware of. It's amazing.
It's quite interesting to see. Like I show all my clients, ask them to see All the Rage. This Might Hurt. I've had a lot of incredible experience and information with Love Heals, with Dr. Hanscom in it, and Bruce Lipton, and this information about this failed spinal surgery of this woman, Dana, and Love Heals. And now there's the fourth movie. And these movies, they're transformational in helping people to feel hope, to have belief that the science and art of chronic pain, the healing, I call it the science and the art of healing chronic pain and autoimmune symptoms. So I'm really excited about that. But, I get off my train of thought, which is a little bit of my, anxiety from being going live, but I feel nice and calm with you and Neil here. So listen, I want to talk about Extinction Bursts because it happens to so many people. And I think if we can explain it in like really layman terms and hopefully get some questions from the listeners about how we can get better from the sensations, I call them sensations, feel better, then maybe not have a good day, or maybe we're now labeling the day, good day, bad day. How can we put that into perspective, Drew, and help people stay on their journey, understand their brain, have a healthier relationship with their sensations? How can we, and your article was amazing, by the way. I just put it all over Facebook. It's plastered all over Facebook. So can you talk, from the beginning of what drew you to not only write that article, but what's going on with you and some of your clients and how we can help people on their journey?
Well, the first thing to say about extinction bursts is that they're very normal. And that doesn't mean they're not unpleasant in their experience. And it's normally a return of the pain or the symptom or the emotion behind the pain or the emotions linked to the pain.
So to return of the emotion is, it's important to say that.
Yeah. So, and I suppose there's a debate between people say pain and emotion are separate, but when you think of pain, it regulates every emotion, even the good ones. So if you laugh too much, your face aches or your tummy aches. If you cry too much, your eyes sting. If you enjoy going on a roller coaster, eventually you'll feel sick with the pain. So the body's regulating emotion all the time, whether it's a separate thing to emotion or whether it's just the upper limit of the threshold is debatable. But if you accept that staying in a highly charged emotional state for too long is toxic, if we think that it's based on being chased by a lion and all the relative systems that change during that, then there's got to be something that regulates these extremes of feeling. Now,
so something has to regulate, I'm just thinking that, so something has to regulate the feelings. So
yes.
Okay.
So when it's adrenaline based, cortisol and adrenaline, if you think of being chased by a lion and take each system independently, the heart rate will go up as soon as you perceive. Oh, you've gone, Tovah.
Yeah, no, I'm here.
Oh, hang on, sorry. My
I'm here. Yeah.
I've just lost you a second there. Hang on a sec.
I'm still here. I hear you.
Oh, sorry, my screen went blank there. Sorry about that. If we take the systems of being chased by a lion, and the perception is there's a lion coming, there's an actual lion coming, so the heart rate goes up, the breathing rate goes up, the reproductive system would be up or down. Well, that switches off because there's no point reproducing children when the lion's coming. Digestion switches off. There's no point eating your breakfast. So it's based on the logic of a primitive reflex. Mm-hmm. And the blood's shunted from the digestive system, the reproductive system, to the arms and legs to run away from the lion. The thinking brain, the capillaries squeeze in the prefrontal cortex, just like they do in the tummy, to push the blood for reflex thinking in the same way the blood gets pushed to the arms and legs. And the immune system, long-term, fighting off colds and cancers and viruses, switches off for the same reason. That's the highest use.
This is you're describing the fight, flight, or freeze mechanism. Okay.
Yeah. And for all those changes to happen, there's got to be a huge surge of adrenaline and cortisol through the system to mobilize the nervous system like that. And that means that if the lion scratches you, you don't even feel it. You don't even feel it. And you don't stop to shout out. You just keep running.
Right.
Which is perfect if there's a lion or an interview or a job or sport, or there's a framework where you're introducing the adrenaline and cortisol into your system and you know it's coming. When adrenaline and cortisol is introduced unintentionally, it's encoded very differently in the system. If it is imposed upon you, if the lion is there at night when it shouldn't be and you haven't asked for it, it's there in the morning just before you start your day, it starts to be encoded as unpleasant and longer than you would like to have. But if the person's in a fix-it mode and doesn't know how to fix it, the pattern stays longer. So you've got this persistent symptom or pain or sense of anxiety that is now encoded to...
I think they call that predictive coding. Like a lion attacked me at one point in my life. I'm safe now, but that memory of that lion attacking me is there, and usually, and the system regulated that. But usually something happens, another trauma, and that memory. I mean, again, I don't really want to talk about that part. I want to talk about what happens. People are on their journey. They feel better. They feeling better. They're getting better at feeling, and they're feeling better. Though we prefer that you get better at feeling and then feel better, but because we want you to have a permanent healing. So the clients, they feel better. They sensations are lower. Their anxiety is lower, and they think everything is good. Now, the next day they feel worse for no reason. What's happening?
There's always a reason.
I love it. I love it.
Remember that encoding that we set up there? That encoding
The
was
predictive coding. The reason was the lion.
right. It's set up in a moment in time. A moment in time. And it doesn't matter whether you live 100 years, that moment in time is encoded in your body for the rest of your life. Now, it doesn't mean it will always trouble you and be ignited, but what's called the long-term potentiation of those neurons, it connects them with the emotion that glues it all together. Now, when you recover, you detach the emotion from those cues, so they're no longer as likely to trigger and surprise you. So that's the process of recovery. However, because there's external cues you might recognize, it might be the chair that you're frightened to lift in. It might have been spending time with your mother-in-law. I like my mother-in-law, but some people's mother-in-laws are challenging. It might be a family member. It might be a workplace. Now, people recognize, oh, I was stressed about work and my dad died and the dog ate my own work. And so they recognize these triggers, conscious, named, linked triggers. However, that's the 40 bits of data per second our conscious mind can process, but the unconscious mind is processing about 11 million bits of data per second. So it sees external cues that we haven't even seen.
Give us an example of an external cue.
Well, it sees things that we haven't even registered that are
in your unconscious mind.
And it does it recognizes the internal state and the amygdaloid complex. It isn't just the amygdala, it senses how does that compare to our memories, how does that compare to our feelings. The insula kind of checks your internal state and combines all of that to decide, is that enough to trip the switch beyond the conscious awareness of the person experiencing that. So let's assume there's a threshold being met. There's a threshold being met that the person isn't really aware of. That could be that they got a little excited about how well they were doing.
Yeah.
Excitement is adrenaline and cortisol.
Yeah.
They might have a little bit tireder. They might be had a little bit of awareness that they're spending time with the mother-in-law. Work might start to creep up a little bit, but the person thinks they're in control. But because of the prediction and the potential of those cues that in the past have been linked to that moment, it doesn't need the full force of that furore to trigger pain. It just needs the suggestion that the person could be returning back to where they were. And that sense of threat as the ability to trip the switch on all the physiological responses that create the outcome again. And it brings to life the pain experience in its fullest without any explanation to the patient. You don't get a school report.
But also, so here's a situation, a person feels a little better. They go to exercise, they go back to yoga, they go to the pool, which I'm always recommending to go to regular exercise. Let the brain know that you're not injured. You can move, you can be active, you can stretch those muscles. So they go and they follow my advice and they go back to the pool, they go back to yoga, and they come out of it and they sprain something. And then they're back in the fear mode. And I feel like that's kind of another kind of extinction burst because but doc, I proved to you, I'm hurt. I can't do this. So they got it. You see, they went back to exercise and then they kind of had this weird injury. And then the fear, you're telling me the fear, their reaction to it right away brings the cycle.
Yeah, well, it triggers the old belief that all pain is related to the amount of damage I've sustained, and it's a flawed belief. Pain can come with damage. It can come without damage, and damage can happen without pain.
Say that again, please. Damage can happen without pain.
Pain can come with damage. And as soon as you've got certainty, you've got all the information, you're in control, the pain drops long before the tissue takes to heal. You can have pain without damage. You put your hand on a radiator, there's no physical damage, it's warned you, get a phone call to hear that a loved one's passed away, you'll feel the pain. And if you don't, you're a liar or a robot. There isn't any physical damage.
Right.
And you can have damage without physical, you can have physical pain.
Yes.
You can be emotional damage and have no, feel nothing.
Yeah.
It can be emotional damage happen and you don't feel anything, because you can be numb to it. Or you can have physical damage, like when you wash your hands after you've been DIY and you'll see the blood and recognize the sting and it happened 10 minutes earlier.
Yeah.
Or you play sport and the next morning you notice the aches and pains whilst you're getting up. However, because we are wired to look for the damage immediately on interpreting pain, we go looking for the mattress, the bed, our height, the age, our wear and tear, some scan findings. So when it comes with a shock and no explanation that makes sense to us, it's because we're trying to interpret that pain on the basis that it's an injury, which it isn't, because the activity the person was doing couldn't injure any human being.
Right.
And then we have 5 senses to try and work it out. Sight, well, we're looking at the mattress and the environment, which has no meaning. Taste, smell, hearing won't help you. And touch, we're grabbing for something behind us practically. We can't get any meaning. So sight and touch simply make us more confused. Then we have to go through our thoughts to think, well, what could it be?
Yeah.
There must be something terribly wrong with me because I only bent over to pick up some socks. I only did a little bit in the gym and yet my pain come on. Everything that Tovah and Drew said can't be right. There's something wrong with me.
Right.
And it's all based in not feeling enough.
Right.
So when you examine that moment and say, well, did you physically injure yourself in that moment? And the answer is no. Ask 100 people the same height, age, and weight. If they were doing that behavior, who would be physically damaged? It doesn't mean that they haven't got pain, but it's certainly not from damage.
Right.
If it isn't from physical overload, it's not from overload. That means the person's in an overloaded state, probably emotionally, that's tripped the switch that they haven't seen.
Right.
Who sees their own emotional state?
Right.
You don't see yours. I don't
It's
see
a habit. It's a habit. It's a habit.
Right. And the behavior has just started to creep up a little bit. And in the recovery phase, I always think it takes about 4 to 6 weeks to bring the nervous system down.
Yeah.
And about 4 to 6 weeks to take the nervous system up by regulating it and almost consciously injecting adrenaline and cortisol through behaviors you intentionally choose for your system 2 or 3 times a week, but on the basis of a calming mechanism that you and I tell our patients every day you're going to do something.
Can I say that? And the minute that we react to whatever happened, that becomes a conflict. That becomes already I'm looking at it, I'm feeling it. There might be some swelling there, which, and I learned this from Dr. Hanscom. I don't think I would have really known this years ago, but that when we have these anxious, conflictual, thoughts, it creates more inflammation. Yes. It's actually an inflammatory response.
Yes. So the amygdaloid process can trigger swelling, discoloration, change the hair growth, make you sweat.
Wow.
It can do all these things, just like if I had a maths exam tomorrow, we know what that feels like. If you've got a funeral tomorrow, you know what that feels like, and you'll feel it tonight. If you have your best friend's wedding tomorrow, you know exactly what that feels like. And these are all wired by exactly the same mechanisms. It's part of the threat reflex to get your body ready for what it's coming into based on where you've placed your focus. So let's imagine this body gives you this unpleasant reaction based on a belief that there's damage. What's the person's default behavior in the presence of an unpleasant sensation or pain? We'll just look at the childhood traits and you'll find someone who pushes through. They fight it, they shut down on it, or they freeze, and they're back in those behaviors. And the organism is back in its safe place. And that's all the organism is doing, is saying, are you sure this new mechanism of safety that you appear to be using is as good as the one we've already got?
Wow.
Because my old car parking space, I think that's the best place to park.
So I want to make this is a very good point. I want to mention it, and then I want to put up Sarah's. Sarah posted something I want you to read, but let me just say this, and then I want to say it in a minute, but I want to show Sarah is sharing. I had an extinction burst yesterday, just after I reported to others my knee issue was better, and I was feeling very confident. My brain had switched over. 2 hours later, the worst pain I felt so far. Today, I'm feeling good after going on a brisk walk. Anyway, wow, so profound how that happened. So that's what I want to say. She felt excited. She reported to another person, which I've heard this story before. And there you go, the excitement, she was happy. So let's just please talk about the brain doesn't differentiate, that part of the brain doesn't differentiate between a positive, a happy emotion or a sad emotion. I don't like to, but this is what I wanted to say. Also, it doesn't differentiate between a physical threat or an emotional threat. Right?
Yeah, exactly. It's always taking you towards safety. In the presence of a certain set of cues, it will take you towards safety. Whether or not that comes through fear or excitement, if it senses a degree of overload until you...
Degree of overload, that's it. If it senses a degree of overload, whether it's positive or, I don't like positive or negative, whether it's a happy emotion on my daughter's getting married or I just missed being in a car accident. Like either one, the brain perceives it the same way.
It depends on how you interpret it as to how it's filtered. So it will give you a sensation and it'll interpret that sensation in the best way it's known how to encode that in the past, and that's with pain. And often it's done that because there's a series of warnings it has before then that have been short-circuited. And if it gives you pain and you react to that, you are rewarding that pathway with dopamine, reinforcing it. So the brain says, oh, we appear to have the right response or right reaction because we think it's unpleasant, and Drew's just confirmed that it's unpleasant. So when you don't react to an extinction burst, and this is hard when someone's on their own, that unpleasant sensation, to know it is normal means that if this happens, can I not react? Can I not judge?
Can I respond? Can I witness? Observe?
Yeah.
Be curious.
Yeah, the pause that you place between the stimulus and your reaction is the long-term depression of that neural pathway.
Wow. And that's the statement that, Viktor Frankl, I posted a lot. He said he was in the concentration camps and he created logotherapy. He was a doctor, and his famous phrase is, between a thought and a stimulus, you have a moment. And in that moment is freedom. But you're saying in that moment is?
You're actually depressing the two neurons, the stimulus and reaction. Let's say in a child, if throw a 6-month-old baby a ball, it'll just fly past. It won't even register. Once they get to an age where they can catch, they've attached the stimulus to a reaction. Once they do it faster, there's no separation. So it's nearly, I think unconscious patterning could be about...
Oh, this is fascinating. So you mean the stimulus becomes the response?
Yes. Up to 200 miles an hour, something ridiculous. So the fascinating part of the extinction burst, and just stay with me slowly for this, Tovah. Let's imagine the threshold's being met for pain to fire. Okay.
For
an extinction burst.
Yeah.
It's been met. The body has said, the amygdaloid process, all of the body and brain working together, the threshold has been met. Okay? There is a conscious reaction, about 4 meters per second, which is, oh my God, and here it is, and blah, blah, blah. Yeah? A conscious reaction. Before that, at 200 meters a second, or however the speed is, it's much faster. There's an unconscious reaction. You are already in the behaviors of reactivity before you've become conscious of it.
You're already reacting before you become conscious of it.
Yes.
Because it's a predictive coding, because it's this.
Yes.
Whoa.
So you're already in it. Before you've even said, oh my God,
right.
You're actively reacting to it.
I want to say to the listeners, even if we do react sometimes, if you can catch yourself and respond to that reaction, like you see your foot swell up. Okay, your foot's swelling up. If you can go ahead and then you go to the emotion, you go to, well, I'm really feeling scared. I'm uncomfortable. I'm feeling nervous. I'm worried. And you begin to calm and respond, or, digest and rest. Then you can even catch yourself with it's not like you have to be responsive your whole life. It's about calming and changing the pathway in your brain that you can even react and you don't have to have pain. That's a new pathway that I can react and be upset and be angry and be fearful, but not have pain.
Yeah. The challenge with that is it's intellectualizing it. And in that moment, Tovah, there's not much blood in the rational brain because it's squeezed to go into reflex thinking. It's like trying to eat when you're nervous.
Yeah.
So you're using thought, or you're attempting to use thought to deal with emotion. Now think of the zebra. It only has breath in the body. It takes a deep breath after the chase, and then it kicks off its muscles and shakes it off to return. So when you think of in the extinction burst, yes, you can rationalize, but probably not in the moment. And the body's already addicted to the emotional charge and in the reaction. So if you use a breathing pattern, and I'll show you one tonight that's really helpful.
It's at the end of the book. I think it's from the Heart Math.
No, it's a shorter one.
Oh, okay.
It's even shorter and faster. Thank you.
Drew's book. It's a wonderful book. It's really beautiful. Go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt. I do that a lot, and I apologize.
That's okay. So using the breath, and this is the fastest physiological mechanism to reduce stress, and it's a process by Dr. Andrew Huberman. I can send you the link for it if you want to share it at some point. It's called the physiological sigh.
Physiological sigh, like
physiological sigh. Are you familiar with it? It's we do this about 5 times through the night, I think, and a number of times through the day. And if I give you the example of how you can use this with an extinction burst, so you can say what you want about it. If you want something immediate to bring the system down, we do this. If you imagine hitting your shin really hard and it hurts, and it really is going to hurt more than it hurts in that moment. You'll see someone take a double sniff. So it's like this. And they come down afterwards, and that means the pain is over. It still might be painful, but the height of the pain is gone, and the body goes into the recovery phase. If you think of emotional distress, if someone sobs and you were holding on to them, you'll feel them at some point.
So now go ahead and explain it again. Like I'm going to answer KD's question, but I want you to go ahead and explain that again. And the doctor was Dr.
Andrew Huberman, and it's called the physiological sigh. So you can actually do
Huberber.
Sorry?
Huberman.
Huberman, Huberman, Andrew Huberman.
Beautiful. So go ahead, please explain the physiological sigh again.
Physiological sigh. So we do it naturally. We do it when we've sobbed or hold someone sobbing. You bang your knee and you feel it going up. Once that pain is over, it's hit its height and the body goes into recovery phase. So if you feel a little wired, and you can do this before an interview, before an argument, before a match, it's a lovely hacks are a bit twee, but it is the fastest physiological response to reduce stress, and they've tested it. Because you're right, the only comparative one is if someone gives you a hug, but if you're on your own, it's your breath, and it's this particular side.
Okay.
And so what it does when you take it, you can look up the neuroscience. So essentially, you take a deep breath in, and then you take a small sniff at the end, and that fills the rest of the lungs, and then.
Do I make a noise like ah?
No, it's just a long, deliberate out breath.
So it's an exhale that activates the parasympathetic nervous system and creates my own cannabis and my own opioids. Is that?
Yeah. So the pressure around your heart when the diaphragm lifts goes much higher than it should, or not should, but the body and brain detect that. So the brain, the heart sends a signal to the brain sends another signal to the body to reduce the blood pressure. And the subsequent effect of that is a real kind of drop in a flushing of like serotonin. Let's do 3 together, Tovah. Anybody watching can join in.
Okay,
so
wonderful.
I'll show you once, and then we'll do 3 together, and then you'll notice how it feels. So watch me first of all. So it's. Okay, join in with me.
Okay.
Go 3, 2, 1. So it's a long out breath, big sniff, then small sniff. Out your mouth, breathe in slow. Last one.
So it's activating the parasympathetic nervous system.
Yeah, and within about 10-15 seconds, you feel a real flush coming through the system. It's so powerful.
Wonderful.
1 works, 3 is really good. A couple of minutes is great, and they've tested people doing it for 5 minutes, and it's entirely safe.
Wonderful. Katie says, does that mean, I think we were talking about the, let's see what she was talking about. Does that mean you shouldn't physically react with, example, self-massaging or holding a muscle, stretching that would be reinforcing the pain pathway? I think as I was talking about, and even if you do react, you can respond to your reaction as if.
Yes. So there's no problem, Katie, in using any of the reactions or avoidance behaviors or painkillers or any of the things you've used historically for the pain. First of all, be compassionate with your nervous system and yourself, because one of the traits is quite a strong inner critic and a bit high pressure internally and doing for others. So when you have an unpleasant sensation, your default behavior is to go to look for somebody else to help them first. So remember, when you're attempting to retrain the nervous system, you can't just put a collar on the dog and drag it to the fireworks display and tell it everything's fine. It's a bit of a process. And the normal reactions for anybody who's had a nervous system situation, and take normal things like moving house. It's about 3 months to decide if you like the house, a new job. 3 months at least before you decide, do I like it? A new relationship. Everybody looks great on the first night with a bit of lippy and some eyelashes. You don't look so great on month 3, and neither did I. You decide by then if you're worth hanging out with each other a bit longer.
You're a dating coach. You're also a dating coach.
These processes and normal nervous system reactions to change. To grief, it takes 3 months before you can open your eyes to see if there's no tears in them.
Wow, so important. It's about patience,
right,
and self-reflection and understanding. And we all know how we react and respond emotionally. We know ourselves. And I think I hate to say that the pain is here to teach you about yourself. And they're like, yeah, doc, it's a bunch of new age SHIT. I'm like, no.
These aren't bad behaviors. These are behaviors that mean they're very well suited to certain professions, careers in care, careers managing money, careers as teachers. But actually what you find in your career of care is just you learning how to care for yourself, and it might take you a career to get there. Right. So the beauty is, if you catch yourself using an avoidance behavior or a reaction, or holding my hand and rubbing it and stretching it, if you finish with that and then chastise yourself for doing it, it becomes a loop. It's
Right.
completed the loop. If you make it a chain, if you add something in afterwards, as you are saying, Tovah, if you add something like through one breath, rub your arm and go, oh, I wish it would go, and then go, okay, I've done all I can. Or you say, tomorrow when this happens, I'll when I finish rubbing my arm, I'm just going to go for a little walk. I'm just going to read a book. I'm just going to think of somebody I love. I'm just going to stroke the dog. I'm going to watch a bee on a plant and let myself watch it whilst I'm in pain or I'm not. I'm going to laugh with my friends till I cry. I'm going to phone someone and ask if they'll come for a coffee with me.
Yeah.
You're allowed to take the help of other people and places and things until you're able to set the boundaries for and knowing how your body responds in a way that can feel safe.
Yeah. So I want to stop you for a minute because I want to make sure KD got her question answered. So first of all, that whether we should or shouldn't react, we naturally have a habit of how we react or respond, especially when we're surprised, something hurt, something in pain, we thought we were better, we're not. We're and this is where the mindfulness. Oh, this is a mindful opportunity. This is so when Katie's saying, shouldn't or should react, when something happens that we are surprised, not sure, indecisive, angry, fearful, sad, it's an opportunity to stop for a minute, take that breath. I call it a mindful moment. Before you react or respond, there's that between the thought and the stimulus. There's that. Yeah. So if we can learn the mindfulness and learn that we have that second to respond, even though you're saying the nervous system's already responded, we still are in control. I don't want anyone to think that you're not in control, because ultimately you are in control. And how are we in control? By letting go, by self-reflecting, by witnessing, by observing, by taking that breath, by being in the moment, by accepting. These are opportunities to slow down this process. And then you can start a new habit and have a new pathway. Yeah. That's a pathway of responding.
Yeah, that gap is key. That gap is key. That doesn't matter if you've got no gap currently between a stimulus and response. You can create a gap by observing without reacting. Just observing without reacting changes and stops reinforcing that pathway. Whatever you do in that gap is irrelevant as long as you create a gap. Wow. And that way means that even if you can reflect a day or two later after the pain you've experienced, whether it's the worst or it's been bad again, reflect and say, well, where was the injury? Could I have done something afterwards? Maybe did I do something before? Did my body recognize a feeling that I'd been in, or did it anticipate a feeling I was going towards? Maybe that was it. But don't allow fix-it mode to hijack that process of analysis. Observe your own behaviors, like you're watching clouds or you're just noticing what was going on.
Okay, I'm being a devil's advocate. Okay, but I'm scared. I'm terrified about what happened. It's a mountain, not a molehill. And what would your answer be? Because most of us, we are reacting with complete fear, and shock.
Okay. So it's important that you get wherever you feel the pain checked by somebody who can help you do that. But let's assume it's the same pain, the old pain that you've had. Would you be okay feeling that fear and doing nothing with it just for a moment? Just feel the fear, hold the space for it. With me now, whilst we wait, you're safe, I'm safe, you're in your office, I'm in my office. Ask the person, just
like check the evidence.
Check the evidence now. Check the evidence. look at the onset of it. Could that have physically injured somebody? I'm not saying it's not scary or unpleasant, but when you look back at it and you don't have the evidence to say it's damage, even if you've got proof of damage, we know other people have those changes without pain. So are you open to the idea that could be a possibility with you? Are you open to that possibility? Are you open to the possibility you could have fear, and then at the end of that fear, whenever you've decided to allow it to be for a while, could you take a deep breath with me? And then you can go back to fear if you want. If you want, there's no problem with fear. We're meant to feel it.
Yeah.
It's okay. Feel it if you need to, and I'm alongside you whilst you feel it. That's all right.
It's I mean, we haven't even uncovered this, the quantum physics definition of fear. I mean, it's a thought, it's an energy, it's not, there's no threat. And this is the opportunity to bring safety and calm. And we're back to the breath. We're back to the letting go and having control.
I have a recent example of this, Tovah, if you're interested. It was a lady, an Asian lady, and her husband came to see me, and they'd had challenges with the family and the children. She recognised it was due to the stress of teenagers, and anybody who's had teenagers will understand. And hers was back.
You were a teenager once, and so was I.
Of course. So, and her pain was sciatica and back pain, and she was recovering, just like you describe her recovery. And she came back and said, on Saturday, the pain was so bad. Her husband was frightened. She was frightened. There must be something else, Drew. There must be something else. I said, okay, well, where was the event? She said, I was sat in the chair. And I said, were you sat comfortably? She said, I was sat perfectly fine. And all of a sudden, the pain came back in my back, down my leg. It frightened the life out of her. She had the fear you described. It frightened the life out of her husband. I said, okay, what were you doing? She said, well, I was only on the phone. I said, okay, on the phone. And who to? She said, my cousin in India. And she was inviting me to a wedding next year. Now I said, as soon as you get invited to a wedding, you think of what shoes can I wear? What dress will I get? How will I get there? I can't wait. She said, yeah, I haven't seen them so long. I've been so excited. And I put the phone down and I said, can you see how excited you got? Now the brain doesn't know the difference between
the excitement of the phone call about a wedding in India created that level of pain.
It created that level of excitement. And at the moment, as she just recovers, excitement is seen as danger.
Excitement is seen as danger to a brain, to a neuroplastic brain.
Brain and body, yeah. It's interpreted as danger because her stress was imposed upon her, or she interpreted it as imposed upon her by behavior of her teenagers. So that excitement was encoded as danger. Now, it doesn't matter that there's a different type of excitement. It's encoded as danger at the moment. So when you are recovering for persistent pain, when you are anticipating or maybe worried about extinction bursts, there's a regulatory process of introducing excitement by bracketing it with really calm mechanisms. It's called task bracketing. So the calm mechanisms that you and I help patients with, they have them ready when they say, right, I'm going to go to the gym, I'm going to go for a walk, I'm going to back to work. Before they do the activity, it should be no pain during the activity, which confirms to them consciously they're not being injured. And the unconscious system isn't shouting about pain because it's happy with the level that the person's introduced. There should be no pain within half an hour or so of finishing, which equates to that after the match drink in the bar where you notice some aches and pains you didn't notice in the match. If you didn't have pain during, we know you weren't damaged. If you do have some pain in the bar, it might be proportionate. It shouldn't be a shock. And the next morning waking up, there should be no shock. Because if you wake up and think it's the mattress or your disc's blown or it's all come back or it's your arthritis or it's the weather or you've dropped into the fear and frustration circuit and it's the adrenaline that's tripped it, and your interpretation of that mechanism now puts you back in the loop.
Drew, I have a client that he only gets pain when he's taking his daughter to the playground or shopping. And this is a strong, handsome, like soldier in the army, like, and the pain comes when he's with his 2-year-old daughter, and he's kind of can't figure it out. And I don't want to, we keep working on it. And I said, call me when you're at the playground with her. I want you to call me so we can do some pain reprocessing therapy. But really what's happening is he feels responsible. He's seeing the future. He's seeing, oh my God, I'm responsible for this little daughter. This is an amazing little angel from God. And I'm like, it could be so unconscious.
Yeah.
And that's where he feels his pain. Not in the gym, not on a plane, when he's with his daughter at the supermarket.
Yeah, he's already not wanting to let her go. He's already not wanting to let her go by the sound of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, and how can you convince someone? It's like, wow. So this is a little bit more difficult case because it's like, so again.
So it's someone like that, when there's a very predictable place that they're already in the state.
It's also conditioned response.
Yeah, and it might be where he's been scared in the past or whatever. But that's something where I would use somatic tracking for, and bring up the thought of taking your daughter to the mall. And as you bring up the thought of it, tell me where you feel it, and breathe through that. Or
just reminded me to do visualization. Some of I have a group therapy each week, and some wonderful thoughts are coming in from some of the delightful people, and they're visualizing. He could visualize being at the playground and not being in pain, being at the playground and feeling very responsible for his daughter, feeling like how much love and appreciation, but that he's not feeling. So this visualization, which is part of the, it's almost like behavior modification or CBT. It's this, it's become much more popular. Imagining, it's like the Joe Dispenza work. It's the quantum physics.
Yeah. Once you've done it 7 to 10 times, it lays the pathway. Once you attach emotion to it, it kind of amplifies. Again, it's just laying the positive one. But sometimes with the fear pathway is so strong, it doesn't allow you the space to create that.
Wow. So what do you do with that when that fear pathway is so strong?
You have to have that fear pathway is protecting the organism from the sense of loss of something that matters to him. Okay, a sense of loss, and so basically that's protect my daughter. Don't go to these places and use pain to stop me going there. That way, I won't even have to think about letting my daughter go. Take it back. So if you provide him another way to feel safe before he's even in the mall, a mechanism on his own, or with his daughter in the house, or wherever you don't, you're not asking him to stop that behavior before you substitute it with something that's a suitable alternative, but you're giving him a serotonin-based alternative.
Serotonin-based alternative.
Yeah, love-based, compassion-based. Drink, drug, sex, shopping, gambling, working hard, pushing hard. All adrenaline mechanisms of cortisol feel safe really fast. Very temporary way of feeling safe. I like work and exercise in the past. I've always felt safe. Whenever I felt overwhelmed, bang, straight to work. I'll go physically push.
Very smart.
It's just a default, but if you've been rewarded by society for that, it just happens to be the safe place. Some people aren't rewarded by society, but they use drink, drugs, sex, shopping, gambling. Now, substituting that, it's the addiction loop essentially. Persistent pain is just an addiction to the thought loop of I'm not good enough, and this is the behavior that I'm into quickly to make myself feel better. Eventually that'll create pain. If there's a time in your life of a perfect storm that, whatever happens. So making the organism feel safe with such an unpleasant sensation means you're introducing a behavior they might have never learned.
Behavior of safety. When you talk about a loop, we're asking people, when we say to create a new pathway, we're creating a healthy loop. We're creating a loop that, there's a stimulus, and then there's a response, and then there's a calming of, the chemicals. Like, we're asking them to create, we're telling people that you can create a positive loop.
Yes.
Use those words.
Yeah. So, well, you rather than a safety place of doing drugs, doing sex, doing work, doing exercise, you're asking them, could they consider a state of being without doing? Being is the dog putting its head on your lap, walking by the river with someone you love, stroking your child's hair as they fall asleep, laughing with your friends. Those situations and people don't ask you to do anything. They're happy to be with you. Now, you can use other people and places, but can you be with yourself? Can you be with yourself? It doesn't mean you can't have safety with other people. It doesn't mean you can never have safety through excitement in life and growth and accomplishment and achievement and challenge. But if you only feel safe there and you only feel safe here, when this goes belly up and your family situations are challenging, you're straight into these behaviors. And if these behaviors are creating pain and you can no longer access them, you jump between addictive behaviors and it's a downward spiral. If you can find a sense of safety with yourself through your breath, feel your body, feel some of the emotions you might have run away from in the past and tried to shut down on, and not follow the thoughts and addictive thought patterns that are linked to these emotions. You pause them, you allow your body to feel the emotion, and even if you feel it for 90 seconds, it starts to metabolize it. And some people don't even tolerate 5 seconds. They are in the behavior of mopping up, getting to work, shutting down on it before they've had a chance to say Jack Frost.
So is this book, if someone, because people say, when people say, well, how many times do I have to come see you, doc? And I'm like, oh my goodness, I hope just once. But it's not like we know. It's not like everyone, but it is, we have to learn a new habit. We have to carve a new pathway. We have to override an old pathway. So it's not like this takes X amount of days. The question is there a sense of how long it takes to learn a new habit and to learn how to feel your feelings and not just know your feelings, learn how to be with your feelings, not just do your feelings? Like, is there a sense of how long it might take?
Yeah, I don't think I put it in the book, but if you took an addiction loop and you put somebody in a rehab center, that's about 30 days to starve the dopamine of the pathway that motivates it to repeat. 30 days. And the literature looks at between 18 and 254 days about formation of a habit, but it doesn't take the surge of emotion that comes with one trial learning.
What do you mean one trial learning? What do you mean?
How many funerals do you need to go to know how it feels? You don't need many.
True.
It's encoded once. How many times do you need to put your hand on the oven by mistake to learn that's not a good thing to do repeatedly? Pretty much once. Break your leg once on a football match in a certain situation with certain conditions, it's just one.
So this is so fascinating. So how are you comparing that?
So that's called a habit forms in a moment, and that's why there's one moment of trauma or that one moment of encoding in childhood where the child needs weren't met. They could have the happiest childhood they've ever had, but they can still get persistent pain because it's encoded that they are approved of or seen enough of by delivering attention to others or less care for themselves. And that means that it doesn't need lots of repetition and loads of trauma with a capital T. Yes, if there's lots of adverse child experiences, and once you hit more than 5, there's a good chance there's a correlation with addiction. However, it doesn't mean it's not a predetermination. It just means that you need to be aware of those patterns. So when you are reversing persistent pain, yes, people get book cures and have one conversation and epiphany. That's one trial learning in the opposite direction to re-access the pathways that you already had but lost touch with. For those that never had those pathways, never knew how to be kind to themselves, they never knew how to put themselves first, they never learned how to say no to themselves or anybody else, they take a little more time. But if you commit to 4 to 6 weeks of learning some of the calming mechanisms that you and I and lots of other people in this field demonstrate. And you can get them on the internet. You don't have to see anybody. Some people I help with having a coach. And then you take 4 to 6 weeks of gradually phasing activity towards where you want to go in life, but maybe with less intensity than you've driven yourself in the past. That gives you a 3-month window to see if the approach you are taking and the person who's alongside you helping you are a good fit. And if they are, you'll see some change. And if not, I would change the person you're with. I'd maybe find someone if you've tried to do it on your own.
Yeah.
And because recovery is possible.
Yeah, and we are, you know, and I know that when we have these broadcasts and we talk about, you know, people recovering, and it can make someone feel very bad, and I understand that, and that's part of the process of you understanding that you know, it's how can I say this? Your first reaction might be jealousy or anger or sadness or grief. That's not happening to me. But that's a mindful moment. That's an awareness opportunity to that you're aware of. How can I say this? Help me here. I want people to be inspired by what we're talking about, but hopeful that they are a human being like anyone else. No one here, Alan Gordon, Howard Schubiner, David Hanson, they're not gurus on the mountain. They're human beings.
Yeah, exactly. And none of us are immune to this. Intellectually understanding it can make you even more frustrated. You have to embody the sense of safety. So what you said there, Tovah, this mindful moment is absolutely key. If you catch yourself saying, oh, well, they recovered after a week and they just read a book, and they ask yourself, am I in fix-it mode again?
Good one. Thank you.
And if you catch yourself in fix-it mode going, right, because I live in fix-it mode, you live in fix-it mode. We get paid for fix-it mode, Tovah. We are rewarded socially with some.
And sometimes fix-it mode works, just not when it comes to chronic pain. It has
its place. However, perpetual fix-it mode for things that you will never fix things that are outside of your control, with the emotional close connections in our life that we will never control them, and we never should. Can we accept that we're as vulnerable as any other human being? If we can, we can allow ourselves those moments of vulnerability. So for all the strength you have from fix-it mode, it is a vulnerability. And could you step out of that mode and feel vulnerable? Well, if you can, you start to feel the feelings you might have never felt before. And it isn't easy, and it doesn't mean it's not unpleasant. And I've had to sit in doctors' waiting rooms with people I love, waiting for decisions on things in the last year or so that I had no control over. And I went to go to work, I went to look at my phone, I went to run away. The emotional charge I felt, I've never felt any pain like it in my life. And I realized that if I just sat with it and I passed through it, I realized it's the best experience of ever.
On the other side of your fear, on the other side of your grief, on the other side of the anger.
Yes, and to see it now from the other side, think, gosh, I can see why I ran so fast in the past away from it. And when you get rewarded for that socially, why do you have to even look anywhere else? But we've all got this moment that we have an opportunity to move through the pain and feel it. And it seems strange and counterintuitive, but our societies are so desperate to not feel pain, not feel it, block it, tablets, salt, sugar, do anything to not feel pain. And we'll offer you a temporary solution to make you feel happy. It isn't happiness, it's pleasure. But true happiness goes through it, and it means that you expose yourself to feeling emotion, and yes, allow it to ebb and flow. And if you do, you're not left with persistent pain as well as that emotion. The emotion passes, and so does the pain.
Right. So it is so profound, and it reminds me of this infographic I post something each day. It's called a mindful moment each day. When I turned 65 last July, I said each day for a year, I'm going to post a mindful moment, living mindfully to help chronic pain. And there's an infographic I posted, I forget what day. And it's this little boy winning something. And he's like, and the little girl who's got second place is like, yay, I got second place. Like it's all perspective.
Totally,
it's
yeah.
all perspective.
Yeah. And when are you 65, Tovah, in a few years' time, did you say?
I was 65. I'm not going to see that again. Anyway, so Drew, I love our hours together. We've got to do this again.
We have a laugh.
Could you ask your wife if we can hang out again, please?
Yeah, anytime. Yeah.
Ask Jenny if it's okay, we can hang out again from the north of England to the north of Israel. Really, I just love our conversation. I said this on one of my posts. You are brilliant. I mean, and humble, brilliant and humble.
Thank you.
You speak the language in a way that I think anyone can understand. And I'm just thrilled that I met you a few years ago and you sent me this book. It's an amazing book. And if anybody wants to have a consult with Drew, I know I see it on your YouTubes that you can contact Drew. People can always contact me to check in with some of this stuff. I'm certified in pain reprocessing therapy, among other things. Drew, I saw that you were thanking Laura Mosley in your book, and you've worked with Steve Blake and Neil Durone. You've really, and what I love about you is, is you're passionate. And you're real, and you create a safe place for your clients. And I know that healing's happening over there. Someone just said that they brought your book. So wonderful.
Oh,
it's a small little book, and it's a wonderful book, and it's just chock full of insights. And I call this your new medicine cabinet. This is your new medicine cabinet. Talk about, So thank you again. And thank you so much. We've had some wonderful people say hello from the listeners, and you who have not said hello, I'm sending you big hugs. If you hug someone for 2 full minutes, you can create oxytocin, just off the record, which is healing. Anyway, we'll meet again.
Thanks, Tovah.
See this face? Remember this face. We'll meet again.
Thanks, Tovah. It's a pleasure speaking to you.
Good night, everybody, and God bless. All the best.
Thanks, Tovah. Okay, bye-bye.